fans, do you want to win your share of $100,000? Simply enter the houseofboxing.com Fight Night Prediction Challenge. Compete with boxing fans around the world. Simply head over to houseofboxing.com and sign up now.
This is Lewis Hart for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and houseofboxing.com. Delighted to be joined with SJAM's very own Shane Watson. I was saying, mate, it's been a while since I've seen you, been a while since we caught up, but how's things been, mate? How have it been?
Yeah, good, mate. Been really good. We've had a good last couple of months. Got Guido with a nice victory back against Curtis Harper. We've had Junaid with another great performance against Corey McGulloch in Sheffield at the Lee Wood show. That was another good win for the team. Another good win for Junaid. Obviously, he'll be back out on December 16th. Yeah, it's been a really good couple of months for the team, really, in terms of winning fights and moving on to the next steps. And yeah, it's been good.
One thing I did want to firstly touch on was obviously yesterday came with the news of two of your clients, two new signings to Queensberry, Solomon Dacres and Nikola Barke. Did just want to get on the first signing of Solomon Dacres to Queensberry. He's obviously left Matchroom now, joined Queensberry. What sort of sparked that decision, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, at times, I guess the relationship with Matchroom and Sol were good. I mean, you've got a good English title win with against Rob Ismay, which I think, and sometimes a breakout fight for Sol. I think that kind of got people watching him and knowing who he is because of the entertaining build up, and obviously stopping him in 2 rounds and winning his first title. So that was big, and that was a great move for Matchroom as well, and even to beat the guy in Newcastle as well, I guess adds to it a little bit. And then he was inactive. I mean, he was a bit inactive really. And then he ended up coming back against the Australian, he's Australian, yeah. Chris Thompson, that's from New Zealand, I can't remember which one now, but it's one of them anyway. But yeah, Chris Thompson, he's a bit of an awkward southpaw. Weren't the greatest performance, but definitely wasn't the worst even, got some good rounds in. And then it was his contract with Matchroom was up. And Frank Warren and Adam worked great together to get a good deal in place for Sol. And I think Eddie did an interview yesterday saying how he didn't want to match up. So that was that. Nothing personal. Obviously, we have a superb relationship with Matchroom. We have a superb relationship with Warren. Superb relationship with every promoter, really. We've got fighters signed everywhere. But at the end of the day, you've got to do what's best for your fighter in the current state they're in. So wants to move into that mix where you've got Dubois, you've got Wardley, you've got Adelaide, you've got all of those guys. And the only real way you're going to get those fights is if we went to Queensberry. So that's it really. It's nothing personal. We had some great nights with Matchroom and Sol. So yeah, that's it really. It's just the best opportunities for Sol were at Queensberry, we felt. And they gave Adam and Queensberry got a great deal together for Sol in place that could move Sol forward onto the next stage of his career. Sol's just turned 30 years old, so the next move for him was vital. He's not like some of our younger stable. I mean, 30 is still young because he's a heavyweight and he hasn't got miles on the clock. He's been barely caught with a shot since he went pro, let alone worried about miles on the clock. But the next 5 or 6 years, maybe Vanessa can be vital for him, really. So it was really important we got this one right for him. And really important he has a clear direction and plan where his career is going to be and what he's going to earn and all those kind of things.
I was going to get into that because obviously, when it came to domestic titles and British titles especially, a lot of the conversations was David Adelaide, Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark. And not many of them conversations were with Sol Dacres. So do you feel like now with him signing Queensberry, he could potentially, could drive him towards a British title shot?
Yeah, I mean, there's a clear reason. I'm not here to slag any of them off because Fabio Wardley put in a great performance the other night. And I have a lot of respect for Fabio because he's achieved an unbelievable amount and improved tons for a guy that's come from the scene that he's coming from, which is the white collar unlicensed scene. So it actually inspires me a lot, actually, because we've got fighters that maybe don't have the most extensive amateur career, but it just shows that what you can do even without it. So, and Fabio's done really well. But I mean, being in Fabio's position and you're looking at a style like Sol, who's definitely the better boxer. I don't think anyone can really argue that. And is definitely the more, I would say, kind of well-rounded. I mean, he fought at a high level in GB, fought in WSB and whatnot. So it's a very high-level amateur. I don't think a lot of people are going to want to fight him, if I'm being honest. And it's shown over the short career that Sol's had so far that it's very hard to matchmake for him because people don't want to fight him. And credit to Sol, he's only had a handful of fights and he still wants to fight these guys now. Like people with medals, Olympic medals and whatnot, want 10, 12, 15 fights before they even fight for a meaningful title. And I just don't agree with that, really. If you believe they're good enough and you've been boxing all your life, you should be looking at taking harder fights. And we're in an era now, and boxing's changed a lot since COVID, where you look through cards and they're almost competitive fights the whole way through. People don't want to watch you against some no one that nobody's heard of. It's just the way that it is, especially as a heavyweight anyway. So, but in regards to your second question, I do think the move will help because there are so many different avenues you can go that way. So you can go down that way. And like I said, you've got the Adelaides, who's coming off of a loss. I mean, I think they're going to be looking to put him back in a meaningful fight. You've got Wardley, I know he's not signed with one, but they've done business before. There's the Saudi connection. There's going to be more fights happening in Saudi soon, probably. So there's that as well. And Sol gets a good win or good 2 wins, then he's right back in that mix, isn't he? He's got the English title. It's the same route that Fabio Wardley went as well.
Yeah.
So you've got that too. And Fraser Clark's obviously with Sky. It's not going to be an easy fight to make because Sky obviously really value Fraser and they probably don't want him fighting on a rival network or platform. And Sol has just signed with a promoter. I'm assuming they're not going to want him to fight another platform straight away. But that's definitely a good fight to make because there's a bit of rivalry there from the GB days. They chose Fraser to go and be the podium scorer to Olympics and stuff like that. So there's a bit of that as well. But listen, it's a great position for Sol. He's got some direction. He's going places in his career now, and I'm really excited for him. Actually, I'm really excited to get his first fight under Queensberry underway.
Definitely, and we'll talk about someone that is also signed with Queens as well, Nikola Barke. Happy to see her sign with Queensberry and get a big promotion deal for her.
Yeah, really excited. I mean, she's a lovely lady. She started boxing the very hard way. She's been fighting on the small hall circuits, not earning any money at all, and just boxing because she loves it really. And she comes from Burmese boxing, which is a very interesting and brutal sport, which is what she did before she went to boxing. And it's definitely a sport I'm not looking at getting into anytime soon because it's absolutely outrageous. But she's very tough. She's very good. She's improving under the Steel City gym. Obviously, we've got a great relationship with Steel City. So we've got Lerone there now. We've got Marku, we've got Boston, and now we've got Nikola. So it makes the gym visits a bit easier. I mean, going to one place, but no, it's really good, exciting to see what they've got there. And again, it's women's boxing is thriving right now. She's in a great weight division. Queensberry, I believe it's now Queensberry's 3rd female fighter because they signed another one recently. So you got Raven Chapman there already.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited for her, and I think it's an opportunity she deserves. She works so hard. She's got an interesting background, working in banking and stuff like that as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing her get her Queensberry debut underway as well.
Talked about the interesting background. Did want to give a shout out to Harry from SJAM. Was telling me she'd been sparring the top G mate Andrew Tate.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mental one. She sparred Andrew Tate, I think, some time ago. I think done a fairly good job on him as well. So any of the fans out there that are against Andrew Tate, a lot of the women that are offended by Andrew Tate, get behind Nikola Barke because he's done that gave him a good hiding for you.
Absolutely, definitely. We'll get on to the action from last weekend. Tyson Fury took on Francis Ngannou in what many see as weren't really a contest, but it ended up being a contest. Fury got dropped, narrowed a split decision. What did you make of the fight overall?
I'm being honest, obviously, just like everybody in the world, when they watched that happen, they were shocked, and I was really, really shocked. I mean, if I'm being real, is it good for boxing? Absolutely not. But the guy that the whole world put at the top of the tree in the heavyweight division, I mean, until on the weekend, I guess rightly so. But I don't want to be disrespectful, because I know Francis Ngannou and his team really well. I mean, we've done a fair few camps of them now, because Guido, a heavyweight that we've got in our stable, was sparring last camp. Joe's sparred him in the past. And Jimmy Cooper, who's trainer, who also trains SJAM, I've worked with him multiple times. And they're great people. And he's underrated boxing coach, Jimmy Cooper, as well, because he does the MMA as well. We worked with
he does.
and
Yeah.
that in MMA as well. But no, he's a really good coach, and they're good people. So genuinely, I'm happy for them to some extent, because they're good men and I like them. But also, I'm not overly happy, because obviously it affects boxing in a very negative way. Like, there's no way a boxer would just go into UFC and just do the same thing. So that's why it doesn't look great. And UFC is already a very competitive market, and MMA as a whole, really. But do I think Ngannou even beats anybody remotely in the top 40 or 50? I really don't. I've got to be honest with you. I just think Fury seemed to really underestimate him, for starters, and I think we all probably did underestimate him.
Yeah.
So it's easy to do. I think he probably had the Usyk fight date in the back of his head, and he's probably even though I know he was sparring orthodox, because Sol Dacres, etc. were in camp. And to be fair, he never noticed or said that Fury was off in camp or anything. So I don't know if that means he did undertrain, or if he just had his mind in other places. And I think he fought the complete wrong style of fight to beat Ngannou. I know that since he's adopted the Sugar Hill style, the Kronk style, that he's had success against people like Wilder, but that's because they can't trade in the pocket. It's the difference is Ngannou is a completely different, it's from different complete combat. So he has to be able to trade in the pocket to even get his style off and going in UFC in the past, and obviously now with PFL. And I think trying to trade with him was a big mistake, because that guy has clearly got TNT dynamites in either hand. And where Fury has shown us in the past that he can box on the back foot, I don't know why he just didn't try and do that. I think he just probably tried to make a big statement and take him out early, which obviously didn't work out. But even when it wasn't working, he got clocked, he still couldn't really dive back to boxing on the back foot. I just don't know if he can do it anymore. We haven't really seen him do it since the Klitschko fight for 12 rounds. And even in the Wilder fight, which he did attempt to do it, which was the first one, he was still getting clocked, and he still got put on the canvas hard. Well, very hard once, and then a bit softer on the first one. But so can he, at the age he is, with maybe not living the cleanest lifestyles in the past and a fair few hard fights and training camps, can he box the same way he did before? I guess we're going to find out when he fights Usyk. But yeah, I definitely don't think he's the same Tyson Fury we saw in Germany all those years ago. But that still doesn't mean he should be having very close fights with Francis Ngannou, because I still don't believe Francis Ngannou would win an English title. So
I was going to say that, because a lot of the talk is, Fury hasn't really got his legs anymore, and he can't box like a Klitschko fight, which is fair. The Klitschko fight was about 8 years ago now. So do you feel like, does this also make an Usyk fight a little bit more interesting in a way where, Alexander Usyk's shown chinks in his armor, Tyson Fury showed chinks in his armor, so does that make it a little bit more interesting? Definitely be a competitive fight.
I mean, I don't think we need Francis Ngannou putting Tyson Fury on the canvas to tell us it's an interesting fight. Do I think Ngannou would get anywhere near Usyk? I've got to be completely honest with you. I can absolutely tell you now that he wouldn't. So, and that's not even me mugging Ngannou off. I can tell you, top level pros that won't get anywhere near him. So, and despite maybe people questioning the Dubois fight and stuff like that, I mean, it is a fair question, because it is a 50-50 decision, in my opinion. But believe me, like what people like Dubois, Joe Joyce, etc. would do to Francis Ngannou would make him never want to stand near a boxing ring again. So I can absolutely put that. And Fury, just being honest, even when Fury beat Wilder and they were 2 exceptional wins, they weren't one punch knockouts. You know what I mean? And they ended up maybe looking that way, but he grinded them down and stopped them. I don't think Fury, he's obviously can punch because he's 6'9", even though I think he's about 6'7", but he can clearly punch because he's a big man and he weighs 20 odd stone. Any man that weighs 20 stone can punch, believe me. So, but yeah, I just don't think he's got that one punch knockout power, like especially from the first round, which is what he was trying to do, and then he ended up getting caught with his own method really against him. So, and he definitely underestimated Ngannou. I mean, Ngannou's definitely not terrible at boxing. Do you know what I mean? You can see that there's definitely some kind of ring craft there, and I just think, like I said, I think the whole event probably got to him a little bit, and he's probably looking elsewhere, focusing on Usyk and things like that. And he's coming at this is where you got to be careful what you say sometimes. I mean, and I'm definitely guilty with this as well. You know, you're saying December 23rd, and like we're going to see you if you don't fight, and it actually turns out he can't fight December 23rd. You've got to be careful. Like, I mean, I've said some wild things in the past, and it's come back to bite me as well. So, but yeah, it's not great for the sport. I mean, in some ways, what happened that weekend was great for the sport because what an event! Honestly, I've never seen anything like it.
Incredible.
I know you were there, weren't you?
Yeah, I was there, mate. It was I've never seen anything like it. I was saying to I was with Matt, and I was like, mate, like, when have you ever seen Lil Baby do a concert before like a fucking heavyweight main event? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the arena looked amazing. The production was just on another level to anything I've ever, like, even including like Olympics and World Cups. I've never seen anything like that. That was just crazy. And the undercard I thought was very good. So yeah, I mean, in terms of an event and putting boxing in the limelight, oh my God, it don't really get much bigger than that, does it? But so I guess that's the positives, and a lot of money got injected into boxing that night, which is again another positive. But yeah, in terms of like one of the best of this generation, just about edging a decision. And by the way, I did think Fury won the fight, but just about edging a decision. I think Paulie Malignaggi actually summed it up perfectly yesterday, where he said Fury won all the quiet rounds, and there were a lot more quiet rounds than there were explosive rounds. So that's how he won the fight, wasn't it? And that's Fury's experience basically coming through. Definitely. So even though he probably should have been penalised for the elbow, but even that didn't do anything, did it? Like, I mean, he's just obviously Nganou's just a very tough man, but yeah, no, it definitely doesn't look great in the sense of like an MMA star coming in and putting one of the greatest generation on the canvas and then edging a split decision. Doesn't look great, does it?
Absolutely, definitely. We'll touch on the undercard there. One fight I did want to touch on was Martin Bakole defeating Carlos Takam. You know, Martin Bakole, Billy Nelson's always talked him up to be you know, very good. So many sparring stories about him. Was you impressed by his performance against Carlos Takam?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good performance. Did he swallow wasp or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
But honestly, all I ask for is one normal day in boxing. Yeah, like I don't know what's going to come out today, but I'm expecting there's going to be something. Right? So, but I don't know if it's true. I don't even know if there are wasps in Riyadh, but that sounds absolutely mental. Like, it's just the thought of it. Like, imagine Billy Nelson waving his arms around in the dressing room. Like, Billy, swallow the wasp. He's wasp. He's playing the wasp there. But it's just so funny. But no, in context of the performance and a win, it was a very good win. It's one of the first times he's got a notable name on his record. So that's good for Martin. That's good for Billy, I guess. What can I say? I mean, Takam is 42 years of age, and I think that does have to be taken into account. And he's almost every fight Takam's had in his career has been a very hard fight because of his style. He just has to take wear and tear. Now, did Takam look old in there? I don't think anyone could really say that he didn't, because we've never seen Takam buckle to the body shots and stuff like that before. But still, is it a good win? Was Takam coming off of a good win? Yeah, because he beat Yoka quite well, fairly in a similar fashion actually, just about the knockdown. So yeah, I mean, it is a good win, and it's definitely not impossible in the foreseeable future for Joe and Bakole to fight, because Bakole's got a good ranking. I mean, his profile is definitely getting better. But fighting on these platforms, I think the Saudis really liked him as well, is what I heard. Yeah. So he could be fighting on more cards. So I mean, it's definitely not impossible. And if he's going to be involved in more Queensberry shows, again, it's definitely not impossible. But I mean, right now, it's not really something we're overly looking at, because we've got to sort a lot of stuff out for Joe until then, which means what his training situation will be. And we haven't even discussed this yet, so it's not even anything that there is to say. And we've got to suss out what dates he's going to be coming back at. There's loads of things to work out yet, but it's definitely not impossible in the future. Listen, I've never completely written off Bakole or Billy Nelson. It's just what Billy Nelson does, which is wrong. And listen, me and Billy Nelson have sorted things out now, so we're fine. But you don't release sparring footage on the other fighters' fight week for starters. You don't release it anyway, right? Because it's just wrong. But you don't do it on their fight week even more so. And if you are going to do it, don't release 8 seconds of the spar because you know you couldn't release the rest of it. So, and I'm not going to do that in retaliation because Martin Cody, number one, is a very good guy, and number two, I have a lot of respect for him because he's a very good fighter. Yeah. So, and I'm not going to retaliate because his trainer has come out with some ridiculous comments. But saying that, it's all put to bed now because me and Billy Nelson get on. But yeah, I just think that it's definitely a fight that could happen in the future. If it could be some kind of final eliminator or something like that, it could be a big fight. But I think Bakole's got a bit more work to do profile-wise and wins-wise. Because like I said, other than Sergei Kuzmin, which is a decent win by the way, but like it's not wow, is it? And it weren't even a good fight either.
Yeah.
And Takam, he still did get done over by Michael Hunter, didn't he? So yeah, he's got a bit more work to do. But listen, he's a very good fighter. He's an exciting fighter. He's got an all-action style. And believe me, if he comes in at 300 pounds against Joe, he's getting stopped in 3 or 4 rounds because there's no way he'll be able to keep up with something like that, looking like that. But maybe he's swallowed too many wasps in camps. That's why.
Well, we'll talk about Joe. Obviously, it's been about 6 weeks now since his defeat to Zhang. What is the update with him? What is sort of the plan moving forward that you'd like to do him? Is he staying with Salas? Everything like that? What is really the plan, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Joe's had a long holiday, which I think is granted because he's been very busy since he came back in the Hammer fight. Obviously, the Park fight I thought Joe won comfortably until the stoppage anyway, but it was still a hard fight. You know, it was still competitive, and Parker still landed some very big and good shots. Obviously, both Zhang fights were very tough fights on Joe's body and whatnot. And it's not even just that; it's the training camps as well. So yeah, he had a month off. He went to Australia and USA. He's had some time. Didn't even talk about boxing once. I'm just gonna be real with you. He didn't talk about boxing once. I just checked in on him, see that he was in a good place and that. Ultimately, he's having a good time, and he was, and he is in a good place. I just think the plan is for him to come back at some point next year, and then move from there. Training situation hasn't been sorted yet. There's still stuff to talk about and deal with in that, and I don't really want to say too much because,
of course.
If I'm being completely honest, there isn't really actually much to say. And yeah, hopefully we can get something sorted on that sometime soon and get some kind of announcement going because I think it has been a while since the fight now, so it would be good to get something moving, get something going, and get some direction planned for 2024.
Yeah. With Joe being 37 now, and obviously suffering back-to-back defeats to Zhang, which definitely does take an effect on his stock. Do you still sort of see him pushing for world titles?
Yeah, listen, I said this before. It's definitely a hindrance for a world title. Like, it's obviously a problem. Like, it's not sweet and straight. Before it was so sweet and straightforward, and now clearly it's not. But it's definitely not impossible for Joe to fight for a world title. Derek Chisora, after losing 13 or 14 times, I can't remember what number it is, but still fought for a world title, right?
Yeah.
So if he can get the opportunity to still fight for a world title after that, being with Queensberry, considering there's an absolute chance that Fury's going to come undisputed, that's a lot of world titles in the promotional banner. It's obviously still a fairly good chance he can fight for a world title. Also, if Joe comes back with a win in his next fight, he's in back all of the rankings. He's already in some of the rankings anyway, but he'll be back in all of the rankings. And then he's eligible to fight for a world title then. Even more so, if Joe comes back in a fight next year, wins that, and wins a big fight after that, because he's going to still be involved in big fights regardless. That's just the point. He'll be in big fights. Then he's right back in the picture again. So, listen, it's not going to be as soon as we've wanted, obviously, and it's not going to be as easy as we've wanted it to be. But is it impossible and is it very unlikely? No, it's not. I think we've still got a good chance to fight for a world title. Bearing in mind, we get the right fights and get the right victories.
What did you make of the criticism that Joe came under, and even guys like yourself and Adam came under criticism? What did you make of that criticism overall? Obviously, you know, the one that was highlighted the most was the Tony Bellew comments, where he said that on that night it wouldn't be Fabio Wardley. No, obviously this isn't, you know, don't mean that in a disrespectful way to Fabio Wardley, but what did you make of them comments that yourself and Joe and everyone else came under?
Yeah, listen, it's top level boxing. You're going to get criticism when things don't go your way, even more so when the first fight was a shock upset. So that's fine. I expect it. I mean, some of the comments I've heard from people, I mean, I've aired it before, so no point me constantly going on about it. I don't want to cause a whiff of beef, but obviously the comments from Bellew I thought were outrageous. I still actually think that. He's got the problem is there's just nothing to go off to say that. You know, there's like when someone's not competed anywhere near world level and one guy's won multiple fights at world level, there's not really a fair assessment to make on that. And Joe has still only lost to one person, and there might be 2 defeats, but he's only lost to one person. So it's not like we've lost to loads of people at different levels. Like, so you can't really make that assessment and make it fair. So that's why my point was on that. And I thought, you know what, in certain situations when maybe someone is having a hard time and things like that their way, when you're someone who's influential in the sport and done a lot of good things in the sport, sometimes it's better to offer a hand out for a conversation rather than basically put them down and slag them off in an interview. But it is what it is. Listen, like I said, it's top level boxing, and in the sport of boxing, everyone has an opinion. So, and I mean, in most cases, people are entitled to them anyway. So, it is what it is. Joe, even when he wins fights, gets a lot of criticism anyway. So, until the Barke fight, really. So, and maybe the Barke fight as well. But it is what it is. So, if you're going to let criticism and that get to you and stop you going where you want to go, then you're definitely in the wrong sport. So, because a lot of it is just criticism, but it's fine. It is what it is. Like, you can't get too worried or too upset and angry at what other people think about you. You just got to get on there and get on and do your job. As long as your team back you, your trainer, your manager, and your promoter, nothing else really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get on to from a couple of big fights to another big fight that could potentially be in the pipeline. Your man Florian Marku, a lot of talk between him and Josh Taylor. What is the latest on that fight? Has there been offers sent? Is it likely? You know, how likely are we to potentially seeing Josh Taylor versus Florian Marku in Scotland?
Yeah, I mean, what an exceptional fight that would be. I mean, that I'm like, even just from a fan perspective, the build up, they're both all action styles, so it's just actually impossible for that to not be an unbelievable fight. Like, it's just going to be an absolute war for as long as it lasts. And Florian's in great form, like we saw in his last fight. Like, I can't tell you how much Grant Smith has improved him. Like, I'm not joking. Before we went to Grant and Steel City with Florian, like, we weren't anywhere near the level that we are at now. And Grant and Florian really get on. They really gel well together. Like, they really respect each other as well. And it's just honestly one of the greatest trainer relationships with a fighter that I've seen, in the sense of they haven't been together that long as well, only a year and a half, and you've trained them since amateur the way they get on. But it honestly just makes that fight so interesting, because maybe a few years ago people wouldn't have been that interested in it. But Florian come on great form. It'd be a great build up. You got to think the position Josh Taylor's in, right? Josh Taylor's coming off a pretty comfortable defeat, and probably a lot of people turn their backs on him now, really, even though it's not fair, because he lost to Tate Lopez, which is no shame at all. But he wants a fight a new weight now as well. What better person is there to go in with? A big name who can sell. Everyone's going to get paid well. More so, he's going to get paid really well. I don't agree with the comments that he's made on that. But and it's a good way for him to get the fans back on his side. But let's be real, the fans are going to be siding with him against Florian, which we're happy for Florian to play the pantomime villain. That's fine. But
yeah,
I'm happy to go to Glasgow as well, and he has to take that into consideration. Florian's a big name and a big seller, and he can sell this event on his own. Like, he sold out better attendances than Josh Taylor at the time. So I mean, so in fights nowhere near as big. So like, he sold national stadiums out and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a massive fight, and it's just a great fight. Honestly, when you talk about great fights for fans stylistically, I know that Florian hasn't fought at world level yet. That's the only argument you can make for Josh Taylor. But believe me, if Josh Hope isn't fighting Catchall, but the other people that he could be fighting ain't going to be Florian's level either. So it's definitely a great fight. And listen, people said that Florian hasn't taken step-up fights, he hasn't had the big fights yet. Well, look, at least Florian banging the drum to fight an ex-undisputed champion who's only ever lost once.
Yeah.
At least we're trying his best to fight his next fight. You got to remember, Florian doesn't come from amateur background and stuff like that. He's fought winning records since his pro debut, even though he just went and become a professional boxer. He does deserve credit. And the fact that he really wants to fight Tate, he deserves credit for that anyway, because to fight him after having one round in a year and a half,
Yeah.
I think it's exceptional, and it says a lot about him as a person. I think it's a great fight for the fans.